Welcome, teacher candidates, for Cycle 2 TPA for the Cal TPA. I am going to give you an overview of the rubrics that you will be scored from and you want to pass from. So my name is Professor Lori Call. I support teacher candidates and could possibly be supporting you right now through the Cal TPA for Cycle 2. So what I want to just show you is the rubrics. These are in the assessment guide. Once again, the assessment guide you should know inside and out. You should have sticky notes on it. You should be highlighting it, whatever you need to do, or you can do that digitally, either way. But this starts around page 25, whether you're multiple subject, single subject, or world language, around page 25. There are going to be 9 different rubrics that you're going to be assessed on, and the score will be averaged to give you an average score, reminding you that you want a 21 out of a total of 45 points. So if you see here, each rubric is got 5 levels, meaning that you can get 1 to 5 points for each rubric. So that's 5 points per rubric, 9 rubrics, which would equal a total of 45. So in order to pass, you need to get 21 out of 45. So for step 1 plan, there are 2 rubrics. And in each rubric, you're going to see first a name and a number. So rubric 2.1 for step 1 plan. Then you're going to have the essential question. Each of them have an essential question. So for this one, for step 1, for the first rubric of the 2 for step 1 is, how does the candidate's learning segment, notice it's focusing on the learning segment, plan provide appropriate content specific and if appropriate ELD learning goals and assessments that offer multiple ways for all students to demonstrate knowledge. So what your goal is here, we like to say, is to get a 3. If you get an average of 3 throughout the whole thing, you're going to pass. You get a couple of maybe 1, 2, and 1, 1. It kind of depends according to the math, right, of doing the scores. But as a reminder, again, if you get more than 1, 1, like you get 2 1s, it doesn't matter if your score is over 21, you will still not pass. So you can only get 1, level 1 score. So keep that in mind. So when we're looking at 3, what scores are going to do is they're going to look at this and start here and look at your work and say, did the candidate on step 1 for their learning segment, did they include manageable content specific and if appropriate ELD learning goals? Did the candidate clearly identify multiple kinds of evidence that they will look for to determine students that the students met, the learning goals and the assessments? Did the learning segment include learning activities that were appropriate? And were there content-specific instructional strategies that included adaptations and accommodations that provide all students with access to the content? If the answer for all of these is yes, then they're going to move to level 4. They're going to ask then, did candidates' instruction and assessment, was it purposefully chosen and planned to develop deep understanding, academic language, ELD learning goals, and so on? If they can answer yes, then they'll move up to level 5. And if they can answer yes, then you'll get a level 5. But if they get to 3 and they look here and there's any of these that they can say no to, they automatically go down to level 2. And if any of these are a no, they go down to level 1. If all of these are yeses for level 2, then you will remain a level 2. So that kind of gives you how the score, gives you an idea of how the scoring works. So step 1, they're evaluating you on your learning segment, which is your lesson plan. And the next rubric is, the essential question is rubric 2.2. How does the candidate plan a learning segment in which assessments, instructional strategies, and learning activities align and provide a progression of learning that develops students' concepts and skills to achieve the learning goals? So once again, they're going to look at level 3 here. Were you able to use assessments including your rubric? Did you make a rubric that were instructional, that provided instructional strategies and learning activities in each lesson of the learning segment that were clearly aligned to support students to meet learning goals? Did you build a lesson on one on the other to develop students' higher order thinking skills, the hot skills? Did you develop academic language and concept skills that were likely to support students to engage with the learning segment content? Once again, if they can answer yes to all of these, you'll move up to 4. If they cannot answer yes to those, they will move down to 2, and so on, respectively, each direction. So for step 1 plan, you have a rubric for the learning segment that assesses whether you have appropriate content specific instruction And if there's ELD learning goals and assessments that provide multiple ways for students to demonstrate that they've learned. And then learning segments in which assessments, instructional strategies, and learning activities provide a progression of learning that develops students' concepts and skills. Okay, so that's step one. Now step two, although it is a long process because you are building that learning segment and it's a rather large section. Step two is actually has 5 rubrics that are connected to teaching and assessing. So you've got rubric 2.3 with the essential question of how does the candidate support student development and demonstration of academic language. So this one is specifically about academic language. When you taught and you assessed through your assessments, did you demonstrate academic language? Rubric 2.4 for step 2. The essential question, how did you, the candidate, incorporate educational technology? Okay, how did that happen? If you are still during the COVID-19 time period where you are teaching online, you automatically meet that goal by teaching online through Zoom or Google Hangout, whatever you're using. So this one is automatically met. If you are in person in the classroom, the student needs to be interacting one-on-one with that technology, whatever it might be, the smartboard, interactive learning modules on their computers, on their handheld devices, whatever that might be. Okay. The third rubric for step 2, that's rubric 2.5, the essential question, how does the candidate use informal assessments to monitor students' deep understanding of content through using higher order thinking skills and adjust instruction to meet the needs of all learners? So now we've got our informal assessment, rubric 2.5. Next is the self-assessment for rubric 2.6. They're going to see how the candidate was able to engage students in that self-assessment. Remember, it's a student self-assessment. That's rubric 2.6. And then 2.7, how does the candidate use results of informal assessments, including student self-assessment, to provide feedback to students? So this one refers to the feedback. Okay, that's specifically what they need to see, is that either on the actual assessments you've provided feedback to the students, or in the template you have written in an explanation of how you gave feedback to those students in regards to those assessments. All right, moving forward to step 3, there's only one rubric for step 3, which is reflect. The essential question for rubric 2.8 says, how does the candidate analyze the formal assessment? So now they're grading your formal assessment in step 3. How did you analyze the formal assessment results based on the rubric and identify and describe emerging learning patterns and trends for the whole class in relation to the learning goals? Okay, so that's step 3. Step 4, this is the final rubric, rubric 2.9. For apply, the essential question is, how does the candidate use the analysis of results from informal, student self-assessment, and formal assessment to plan and teach a follow-up learning activity and provide a rationale for the activity choice citing evidence? So this is kind of the entire apply step 4 all in one fell swoop here for the essential questions. Remembering your goal, let's get a 3 or higher as always. And you only want to get at least 1 in order to pass, and your goal is overall to get 21 out of 45. So this is also what you're going to be using candidates in clinical practice to be using for peer reviewing your partner. So when you're in your partner and you're in your conference, prior to the conference, you're going to read the content of your partner's template, look at their videos, and then you're going to give them a score according to these rubrics as to what you think that they earned. Also knowing that you are not an expert, but that you have some experience because you have done this, and what the point of the peer review is to just give each other feedback. We know in research that feedback informs and increases learning of students, so we want to be sure that you have a chance to give feedback so that you can evaluate it and make it better and improve upon it if necessary before you submit it to Pearson. So thank you, and hopefully this was helpful, and remember to really get to know those rubrics.